What's up everyone, my name is Gazzy B, welcome back to the vlog. We're continuing our LA trip here today. Results for the trip so far are on your screen. Very swingy stuff so far. I got decimated in a 50-100 stream game the last time you saw me, and now we're back to the safety of 5-5-10 at the Hustler Casino the very next day. Winning a few $100 with this PLO hand to start the day, off to a good start, and our first real hand of the day comes about 20 minutes later. The Straddle is on. I really hope that lasts after my big loss the last time you guys saw me. I really want to play a bigger game today. The low jack is going to raise to $50. He's a local pro. I am in the cutoff with pocket jacks. I make $150 to go. The button cold calls and the low jack calls as well. We're going three ways to a flop here, and it's a relatively decent 6-4-3 with two spades. I'm going to see bet here for $230. The button makes the call and the low jack gets out the way. The turn is the 4 of spades. He shouldn't have much 4x, and I think he's just going to raise a lot of his flush draws on the flop. And we've got a low stack to pot ratio, so I say, do you know what? I'm all in. If you've got me, you've got me. He clearly doesn't have me because he's just gonna let it go. Nice pot coming my way after a bit of a scary turn there. Decent start with the pocket jacks. Let's try ace king suited about 4 minutes later. The small blind is a local pro. He raises to $70. Action is on me here in the straddle, and I make it $230 to go. Action's back on my opponent. He's mulling over his options, and he decides to move all in for $1,500. Now, I have flipped about 10 times with this guy, and in my lifetime I've won 0 of them. That's not an exaggeration. As I call, I tell him, flipping versus you is one of my least favorite pastimes, but yeah, twice as good. Hold that thought for 1 second. Just give him the money now.
That's not long enough. It's not like 20 years.
He wants to do it
right. It's never even clean, it's just always gas. Oh, I should have flipped it on you yesterday.
Nice one. I never ever beat this guy when we flip. I run well against him in other parts of the game, but flips? Nah. Nice hand, buddy. What a swingy start to the day here. And no time to even count my stack, because just a few hands later I pick up pocket sevens in the blinds. A recreational player has raised on the button off of about a $400 stack. He makes it $60 to go. I've got pocket sevens. That's good enough to play for $400, especially when the straddle's on its 20 big blinds. So I make it $230 to go, and the guy to my left is gonna cold call. The recreational player is then gonna move all in. I ask for a count, and his shove is $395. I ask the dealer, can I re-raise? She does a bit of quick math in her head, and she says no, because the shove is too much by $5. If I had raised $5 less, I would be able to rejam here, but I have to just call, and inevitably the guy to my left is gonna call as well. This is a bit messy. It's a bloated pot out of nowhere, and we go three ways to the flop. It is jack 9 with 2 clubs. Don't love all these overcards. I decide not to see bet into a dry side pot here. I check it on over to my opponent. Very happy to see him just check it on back. The turn is an interesting one. It's another jack to give me a full house. When my opponent checks back on the flop, I'm pretty sure I've got the best hand here, so I decide to bet out for some protection here. I bet out for $300. The plan works. He folds very, very quickly. The river is the deuce of hearts. Can I beat the button's hand? Yes, he's got ace king. This is such a swingy start to the day. I have a jacks, ace king, pocket sevens, and a 3-way bloated pot. Really swingy stuff. I'm finally able to count my stack, and we're actually winning $180 for the day. Not bad considering we lost a flip for $3,000. Getting a nice video of the stack here. Like I say, it's been a swingy start. We've accumulated a lot of chips but very little profit. Let's hope we can keep moving onwards. Moving on now, I've got pocket 5s in the middle blind. The cutoff is limped in for $20. I decide to call out the middle blind, and the straddle checks. Before the flop is dealt, for fun, I say 20 in the dark. Throwing out a dark 20 bet here. We've got a very fun table. I'm happy to get in the mixer and do stuff like this, and it works. The flop comes down ace 5-4 with 2 diamonds, flopping a set, betting dark. Life is good. Straddle says good enough and folds, and then the limper decides to raise me to $40. Like I say, we've got a lot of characters in the game today, which is why I'm messing around a little bit. No messing around here with middle set though. I make it $200 to go very quickly, just to kind of bamboozle my opponent a little bit, and sure enough, he is gonna make the call here. The turn is an offsuit 10. I bet out for $350. Loving life here with middle set, and loving life even more as he moves all in. I, of course, snap call. It's like $800 total, obviously never folding a set anyway. The deuce of diamonds rolls off on the river, a bit sweaty here, but he's got ace 9 of spades. He had precisely 0% equity. This dart bet, flop 3 bet into turn bet call is absolutely dreamy. My opponent was drawing dead after the flop, and this very nice pot is being dragged in by me. No time to even count my stack though, because in the very next hand I pick up pocket sixes in the small blind. It folds to me, and I've got a really aggressive player to my left who is 3-betting me relentlessly lately, so I just limp in for $20, and sure enough he raises anyway. He makes it $80 to go. The straddle is going to call, and I of course call as well. Now this worked the hand before, why not again? I bet $20 in the dark, and it comes down 9-6-4. What's happening today? This is some Gazzy B voodoo white magic right here. The middle blind is going to raise to $200. Absolutely loving this. And I think it looks a little suspect if I 3-bet here. And he's very aggressive, so you could just have an airball. He's very likely to barrel. I'm a bit worried about the flush draw out there, but I decide to just call and let him do his thing. The turn is the deuce of clubs. Really don't love that. I check it on over to my opponent. Really happy to see him check it on back. I don't think he ever has better when he checks back the turn. To the river, it's the jack of spades. I'm very confident I've got the best hand here. I bet out for $500, and he does very quickly just let it go. What a rush, guys. 2 sets in 2 hands, dart betting twice. Top tip from Gazzy B, if you want to flop more sets, dart bet more often. Really swingy day so far. No luck in this bomb pot that we can see on our screen. $3,500 in my stack. I'm up around $1,200, just absolutely cruising so far. Next up, I've got king jack of clubs in the straddle, and the double straddle is on for this hand. The button is going to limp in for $40, and resident podcaster Charlie makes it $190 to go in the middle blind. Now I'm in the big blind here, and I decide against re-raising. I would much rather be very polar and re-raise hands like ace-3 offsuit here, and the reason for this is I don't want to 3-bet this hand and then face a jam. It's a disaster to fold a hand as pretty as this, which is relatively likely to happen. My opponent can very easily 4-bet shove this, so I decide to just call. Also, it's not a bad thing to play with the limper as well. We go heads up to the flop. It is queen deuce deuce with 2 clubs. My opponent bets out for $190, and I don't think I'm going to play any raises on this board. I decide to just call. Looking for some help on the turn. No help just yet. It's an offsuit 4. My opponent bets $250. Good price for me to call here, in position with the flush draw, the overcard to the board. I go ahead and make the call. To the river, well, I do improve, but not how I wanted. It is the jack of spades. My opponent relatively quickly moves all in. I do go deep into the tank, trying to work out what types of hands that he can bluff with here. He's very good. He's not going to bluff like a missed nut flush draw or anything like that. I also discount hands like 6-5 suited because the $40 straddle is on. He's likely to just overlimp that pre-flop. He's not going to isolate like 40 big blinds effective. The only bluffs that I can really work out here are ace-3, ace-5. That's kind of it. I've also got a lot of queen X here as well, so he's not going to be bluffing all that wide. So I sigh, I fold. He gets ready to mug his cards, and I say, Charlie, showing bluffs is good for the game. He is just waiting for me to say that because he wants to roll over his bluff. He's got ace-4 of hearts. This is really, really groovy by him. I didn't even think about ace-4, to be honest. What a sick line by my opponent. We had a deep discussion about this hand afterwards, and he says he was targeting hands like pocket 9s, jack X of clubs. Pretty cool line by him. Like I say, he's a very good player. You guys should check out his podcast. It's a lot of fun. Moving on now, I've got pocket 8s on the button. It folds all the way around to me. I raise it on up to $50. The big blind is going to make the call, and the straddle is an unknown fella. He's going to make it $220 to go. He only starts the hand with like $650, so I decide to put in the 4-bet here, playing for about 30 odd big blinds with pocket 8s. I'm happy to do that. I make it $500 to go. Not all in. I want my opponent to be the one jamming, and sure enough, he does not jam. This blows up in my face. He just calls. We go heads up to the flop. It is queen 7-4 with 2 spades. He checks to me, and I'm not messing around anymore. I put him all in for his last $150 or so. He doesn't snap. This is a really good sign. Is this guy about to fold for $150? He does eventually flick in the call. No chance he was ever folding. 10 of spades on the turn. Offsuit 3 on the river. And my pocket 8s are good. He is going to sigh and muck his hand. Let's go. Bit sweaty with the overcard to the board there. That's what I get for messing around before the flop. $4,000 in my stack now. Profit of $1,600 for the day. This is just a lot of fun so far. Really nice stack video on your screen right now. Moving on, things could be about to get even better. I've got pocket kings in the cutoff. The low jack is raised to $50. I put in the re-raise. I make it $160 to go. He is going to make the call here, going heads up to the flop in position. It comes down jack 5-3 rainbow. Really nice, smooth, dreamy flop for me here. And I'm going to c-bet my hand for $125. My opponent thinks for a few seconds and makes the call. The turn is the jack of spades. My opponent checks it on over to me, and a lot of people are just going to check back here, but there is a decent amount of value to be had. Hands like 10s, 9s, 8s. All these types of hands are definitely capable of calling another bet, maybe even a hand like ace-king. So I decide to bet again. I bet out for $400, and after a few seconds, my opponent makes the call. The river is an offsuit 4, and we're about 2k effective here on the river, so he can have some full houses. He can obviously have a jack as well. He's not always going to pay off a bet on the river with a hand like pocket 9, so when he checks to me, I think we've got enough value here. I just check it on back. He announces ace-king. Obviously ace-king doesn't beat kings, and I am going to scoop in another pot. No harm done. I asked him if he was calling a river bet, and he says he was just folding.
The YouTube comments will roast me for checking that one back, but I don't care.
Let's move on now. I've got jack 9 of spades on the button. I raise it on up to $50. The local pro in the middle blind is going to put in the re-raise. He makes it $205 to go. Action is back on me. Really easy call here. I've got a very nice hand in position. I go ahead and make the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is king jack 3 with 2 diamonds and 1 spade. I've got middle pair, backdoor draws. Very easy call here when my opponent bets $175. Nothing else we can do other than make the call. The turn is the ace of spades. I picked up a flush draw to go with my pair of jacks, and the bets keep coming, this time for $240. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not folding. I'm not raising. I again go ahead and make the call. Looking for a spade on the river, but it's the queen of diamonds. Really didn't want to see that, and now my opponent is going to bet again for $300. Very tempting to do something other than call and fold here. I do think about moving all in and putting max pressure on his like ace 10 and pocket 10s and stuff like that, but I think it's going to be reserved for hands like ace queen with a diamond, ace jack with a diamond. I think we just really want to have a diamond blocker here. So I do be a good boy. I just go ahead and fold. I ask him to show me a bluff one time, and he shows me the 4 of diamonds. Like, why would you just show the 4 of diamonds? You clearly have a flush when you show that. Good fold by me, of course. Taking a little bit of a hit here. I'm now up only $1,875 for the day. The game is going to go 5-handed now, so we're going to get rid of the middle blind. We're playing 5, 10, 20, 5-handed here. Lots of fun, lots of action, and lots of big pots still to come. Next up, I've got ace, jack of diamonds in the straddle. The button is raised to $50. The small blind is a reg. He's going to make it $220 to go, and my hand is a very clear cold 4-bet. Plays really nicely versus both players, and I've got good blockers, of course. So I make it $460 to go, and the small blind is gonna make the call here, going heads up to the flop with about $1,000 in there. It comes down queen 9-4, all red. No flush for me, no flush draw for me either. I do have a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, and it's a decent enough board for my range, so I bet out for $250, hoping he just folds a hand like pocket 8s or, you know, ace 10 of spades or something like that. But he does go ahead and make the call. The turn is an offsuit 4. My opponent checks to me, and I don't think we've got a great candidate for barreling here. We block hands like ace jack of diamonds, obviously ace 10 of diamonds, pocket jacks, king jack, etc. I think we block a lot of folds here. I'd rather have a hand like ace king offsuit or a flush draw myself, so I do just check it on back. The river is an offsuit deuce, hashtag brick of all bricks, and relatively quickly my opponent moves all in. I'm of course not about to hero call with ace high. I of course sigh and fold. A little disappointing because suddenly, guys, we're bleeding quite a bit back. I was doing really well, cruising up lots of money, and all of a sudden things are going the other way. No time to count my stack though, because just a few hands later I've got king and jack offsuit in the small blind. It's on me and I raise it on up to $70, and the big blind puts in the re-raise here. He makes it $260 to go. This is the player that's really loose, really aggressive, loves to 3-bet. He's also having a really tough hour or two here, and he looks visibly tilted at a couple of pots that he's just lost, so I know he can be re-raising really wide here. I've seen him put in some wild 3-bets normally, but if he's a bit tilted, then even more so. I'm of course calling with king jack offsuit here, and we go heads up to a jack high flop, but it's a relatively connected jack high flop at that. My opponent's going to continue in the form of a bet of $300. nothing else I can do here. I go ahead and make the call. The turn is the 5 of hearts flush draw on board now, and my opponent announces that he's all in. I am really surprised by this. This dude is super tilted right now, but this is a really big shove. I would just laugh and fold versus most players. But versus this guy, there's a chance, there's a decent chance that I've got the best hand here. I ask for a count from the dealer, and when it's on me, it is $1,800 to call. What an overbet this is. I would never call this versus most players, but versus this guy, I think we've got a decent chance of being ahead here. I think about it for a very long time, and after a while I say, do you know what, mate? I think I'm good here, and I make the call. He asked me once or twice. I'm happy to go twice here if he is, but then the next words out of his mouth are really not great. He says I've got kings, which is just horrible to hear. I've got 2 outs. This is so gross. No miracle jack on either run out, and this huge overbet from my opponent, which is probably designed to look like he was bluffing and tilted and spew and stuff like that, has worked an absolute treat. This is gut-wrenching for me because out of nowhere, I am losing for the day. I was up thousands of dollars at one point, and now I am down to $1,200, popping up my stack to $2,000. Ugh, this is disgusting. Still, the grind goes on. The game is relatively good. There's money to be made, so I get back on the horse, picking up King 8 of diamonds in the big blind the next hand. The button raises to $75. I'm in the big blind. I'm a little bit tilted. I want revenge on the guy to my left. I go ahead and make the call. Happy to see the straddle call as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop here. It is 10-7-5 with 2 diamonds. There is a chance that we can get revenge here. The button is going to see bet for $110. I've got a flush draw. I've got the 3 card straight, the overcard to the board. I decide to put in the check raise here. I make it $350 to go. I know the straddle is not folding top pair here as well. The straddle does just get out of the way, but the button makes the call. The turn is an offsuit 3. No immediate help to me, but I do still have all this equity, and I can make a hand like, you know, Jack 9 or something like that fold right now. So I bet again, and again my opponent is gonna make the call, looking for some help on the river, but it is an offsuit 5, really nasty river. I don't have a good bluffing candidate here blocking diamond folds. So I sigh, I check it on over to my opponent, and I'm going to lose this hand to ace 7 offsuit. My opponent has bet called second pair on the flop, called the turn barrel, and is good on the river. This is just a disaster day now. So many hands going against me. I can't win a hand, and I'm now down 2.2k, but still nothing else I can do other than keep on grinding. Picking up queen at 3 of hearts in the straddle just 5 minutes later. The button raises to $50, and I have an easy defend. We go heads up to the flop. It is queen jack 10 with 2 spades. My opponent bets out for $50, and this is an ugly top pair, but I'm not going anywhere just yet. I go ahead and make the call. The turn is the deuce of spades flush completing turn. I am just done with this hand. I check to my opponent, and he just checks it on back. Little bit of hope here that I could win the hand, and even more when another queen rolls off on the river. Lovely stuff. Really likely I've got the best hand here. I bet out for $160. My opponent is thinking over his options. Please pay me off here, buddy. He raises. Oh my god, are you serious? He makes it $510 to go. What is this line? He's checked back the turn, and now he's raising on the river. Doesn't make much sense to me. I've actually got a really good candidate to 3-bet jam. And this is going to sound terrible, but the amount of money that I have lost over the last few hours sort of rules that out for me. It feels really spewy if I 3-bet shove here and he calls with a better hand or something like that. So I just rule that out, which leaves call or fold. And I decide, do you know what? I don't think this is ever a bluff. It's some weird value hand. I sigh, I fold. I ask him to show a bluff.
Show a bluff. Show a bluff. Show a value hands. Show something. That's just one card. Come on, show them both. Thank you.
He shows me the 6 of spades, and then he shows me the 4 of spades. Really nice of him to show me that. If he had shown me like the ace of diamonds to go with that 6 of spades, I probably would have flipped the goddamn table. Alright, 45 minutes later, we're still short-handed here, and I initiate a round of $40 straddles. Lo and behold, the poker gods are going to reward me here with pocket kings in the $40 straddle in the very first hand of the round. Action is on the small blind here. He raises to $140. I ask if I can see his stack, and he's really happy to show me. That's a good sign, guys. I'm going to put in the re-raise here. I make it $425 to go, praying my opponent doesn't fold. He does not fold. He does not call. He does not 4-bet. He says that he's all in for about 2.4k. Snappity snap from Gazzy B. And he's got pocket queens. We're going to run it twice here at his request. Dealer, please keep it clean.
Okay.
You have a shoot? I think about 23. Queen.
No queen in sight, and this pot worth nearly $5,000 is being pushed my way. Guys, the key to poker is making good hands. Your opponents have slightly worse hands, and you get all the money in. Huge pot coming my way. Absolutely delighted with that. And finally, trending back in the right direction. 30 minutes later, I'm going to put on the $40 straddle again, and I'm going to say one-time dealer. Now, the guy that had the queens in the last hand is going to say, didn't you just use your one-time against me? To the absolute delight of the table. Even the dealer lets out a chuckle. The button who had the pocket kings earlier when I had king jack is going to raise here. He makes it $150 to go. Big raise, but suited ace in the double straddle, and of course, not folding. I go ahead and make the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is ace 8-5 with 2 hearts. Top pair, never a bad thing. But the bet comes in for $250. This is a larger c-bet than you'd normally face on a board like this. Still, top pair, I'm not going anywhere just yet. I, of course, make the call. The turn is a 4, relatively connected, some hands improve. Not loving life here as I check and my opponent reaches for more chips. This time he bets out for $400. Really don't love this. This is pretty gross, but I've got top pair, I've got a gut shot, might even have the best hand. I, of course, make the call. The river is a board pairing 5. I check it on over to my opponent, kind of hoping that he just waves the white flag and checks it on back. But not this guy. He loves to barrel. He loves to put people in the blender. He bets again for $600. Really not sure what to do. This guy is really capable of triple barreling, though. I've got to read that he's bluffy. I've got to read that he's aggressive. I'm a little scared that I might pay this guy off again and he's just going to have value and I'm going to look like a moron. But I stick with my reads. I know this guy likes to barrel. I know he's capable of bluffing. I know he can have any 2 cards here. So I make the call and he goes, which is always a good sign. He tells me I'm good. I turn my hand over. He actually shows me that he had 6-4 of hearts for a pretty cool triple barrel by him. What a lovely pot coming my way. That would have been so painful if I folded and then he shows me 6 high. Really nice pot coming my way, and we're back into profit. We're now up $1,000, and maybe, just maybe, that could get even better when I pick up pocket queens in the straddle. The button is the guy I've been battling with all day today. He raises to $80. The middle blind is going to put in the re-raise. He's been a very tight, very passive player. He's played all day, and this is the first re-raise that I have seen him put in today. He makes it $280 to go. I'm a bit concerned here with my pocket queens, and I decide to take a very, very passive route here and just cold call. We're quite deep with this guy. I don't want to 4-bet and then face a 5-bet, or, you know, all sorts of things can happen. So I take a very unorthodox route here in the form of a cold call. Action is back on the button, and like I say, this dude loves to put money in. He's going to put in the 4-bet here. He makes it $1,100 to go. The middle blind is going to think for a very long time, shake his head, look back at his cards. He clearly doesn't love it and does eventually just let his cards go. No idea what he had. I think there's a chance he's just folded kings here, you know. Action is back on me, and versus this guy, it's a really weird line from me, but I'm super happy to get this in. I back raise jam. My opponent does not snap call. He says, shit, you really got me, huh? Which is always a good sign. He does eventually call it off. This pot is bloated out of nowhere. I tell him I've got queens. He tells me that he's got pocket jacks. We're 1 hand away from being way back into profit here. Dealer, please keep it clean.
2 times, Joey.
Jacks? I got 10.
Huh?
10.
10?
Yeah, I got 10.
I got that spare too. You get an 8-8 for split. Let me get a 9. Deep cover.
2 very, very clean runouts, and this huge pot is coming my way. I had to take my second phone out and record all the chips that my opponent had that I've got to drag in and amalgamate with my stack. It's absolutely huge. It's one of the biggest pots I've ever won in terms of the number of chips involved. It takes ages for me to drag it in and stack it up. I'm exhausted by the end of it, which is an absolute first world problem, I am well aware. Unfortunately, about 30 minutes after this hand, the game is going to break. Really disappointed because I was really in the mood to grind and swing about and stuff like that. But alas, the game breaks and I head on over to the cashier, all these chips in hand. Yeah, what a crazy swingy day this has been. So much fun. Let's switch to the outro.
Alright guys and girls, before we talk about the session, facts and figures. For the day, somehow I won $4,337. For the trip, I am down $9,141. I have played 72 hours of poker this trip and I am losing $127 an hour. As for the session itself, that was a wild day. I was cruising, easy day, winning a couple of $1,000s. Then out of nowhere, I was losing 3k. And then I was up 1k. And then I won that ridiculous pot at the end to send me up 4.3k. For my sanity today, did I need a winning day after yesterday on stream. So I'm really happy to just sort of book a nice win and maybe we can make some profit for the trip and stuff like that. What a day, just swings like this. But this is what we do. This is what we do. We're poker players, you know. We swing about, we accept it, we embrace it, we shut our eyes, we stick it in with the queens, and we win. So that's me done. Thank you very much for watching. If you could click the sub button, that would be great. Gazzy be out. See you in the next one.